Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 517. Last week of December 2024, which means it's the last week of 2024, Tracy. Wow, I'm pretty
Amazing.
sharp, aren't I? I know. It's Tego and Tracy Venturi, Venturi Realty Group, a real broker here in the Albuquerque area. And happy to be here again, 517 times talking about real estate in Albuquerque. And Tracy, this year, it's 2024 year in review. Last week, we did our predictions on the 2025 market and what we expect to see happen. But we want to go back and check our work, actually, is what I'd like to do.
So, Tego, I know you went and you used your AI and went back and found our episode where we made our predictions for 2024, and you had the AI listen to the video, right? And give a summary of the predictions. So I have that right here.
Oh, we're gonna tell.
So,
Yeah, I know I did. I
yeah,
I
use your
I
AI.
checked it out. I checked it out. Yep. I
So
definitely do that.
we're going to go through that.
And we're also going to talk about the most expensive homes that were sold in Albuquerque in 2024.
And I have a surprise for you. We're also going to cover Santa Fe
Okay.
because it's quite the interesting, juxtaposition.
Well, let's start off there, and then we'll get into our 2024 review and some of the trends and what's happened.
Great.
We'll
We'll
go from there.
start light and fluffy.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. You wanted to know about the most expensive properties sold in the Albuquerque area. In the past year, you said, were there any sold, Tracy, over 3 million? Right? Is that what you said?
Well, I was wondering over 2 million.
Over
and
2
then
million.
I was wondering, yeah.
Okay. So over 2 million or at or above 2 million, there were 13 properties sold in the Albuquerque area proper.
Okay.
Not outlying areas, but interestingly enough, 7 of the 13 were in the North Valley or Corrales. 1 was Corrales, 6 were the North Valley.
About
So
half. Yeah.
yeah, 7,
7. So
more than half.
a little more than half. Yeah.
You know math. You
Yeah.
math.
I math.
Okay, so more than half of them were in the valley, interestingly. And of those, 1 was in the Northwest, 1 was in the foothills north, and the other 4 were the North Albuquerque Acres area north of Paseo del Norte, so the far northeast. What's foothills north is sort of up that way, but not considered North Albuquerque Acres. So that's where they all were. But 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 13 were over 3 million.
Got it. So
The
there was
rest.
four homes that sold for over 3 million in Albuquerque.
Right. 3 of those were North Valley. 1 was Albuquerque Acres West, which is not really North Albuquerque Acres. It's closer to La Cueva. It was one of those acre lots up on the north end of town. Very modern, beautiful home. So there's the Albuquerque numbers.
Okay.
Right. Santa Fe, I just couldn't help myself, right? Because we do cover Santa Fe. So I looked in my Santa Fe MLS. 5 sold over 4 million. 23 sold between 3 and 4 million. 93 sold over 2 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Compared
huge.
to 13 in Albuquerque.
Right.
Yeah.
93.
No surprise, of course, but yeah.
Their market has really recovered. You think back 10, 15 years ago, Tego, we felt so bad for our Santa Fe market because the high end just was sitting. There was actually 398 sold in Santa Fe over 1 million. So huge numbers.
Yeah. Interesting. We didn't happen to get that number for Albuquerque, did we? Over 1 million? I'd be curious to see that. We can get it, but we'll look that up. But that was interesting.
We have, we work the Santa Fe market. So if you're looking for something in Santa Fe, I know of a couple really fun ones right now, kind of near the plaza that would be good, like VRBO if you're not going to live there full time. Good locations that are under 1 million.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, give us a call.
Well, let's jump into 2024 in review and talk about some of the things that have happened, talk about our predictions.
All right. I'm going to quiz you on them.
Okay. Well, these were our let's
predictions.
Start. We're going to start with so we did a show just about this time last year, about exactly 1 year ago, where we talked about what we expected to see in 2024.
Right. So, Tego, one of the bullet points was national versus local predictions. The national was saying that our market was going to be flat or slightly declining market. We predicted that we didn't agree with them.
Well, what I remember is that for home price appreciation, there was an expectation of zero appreciation nationally and very slight appreciation for Albuquerque. And
1.7% was sort of
that was a prediction
the prediction
from Zillow.
nationally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we ended up we're going to end up you got to take all these numbers with a grain of salt, but we're going to end up somewhere around 4%, maybe even more. Again, it depends on how you look at it. If you're looking at just median, price per square foot, home values, and so on. But somewhere we in that range of around 4% home price appreciation. So we were right. I'm going
Yep.
to call that one a win.
So what we said, to be really specific, we said there's going to be continued price appreciation. We believe prices will be rising more moderately than in previous years because we had some big jump up years, right? The prediction suggests a steady increase, possibly in the 5 to 6% range, is what we said, rather than the double digit growth seen in 21 and 22. So it's 4. It's closer to 5 to 6 than it is to flat or declining. So I'd say that's a win.
Yeah, no, I'll call it a win. And I think also I actually listened to what we said, and we said, well, it could get up in that 5 or 6% range, but we were expecting something more moderate.
Right.
And again, that's what we're expecting for this coming year, 2025.
So mortgage rates was another thing that we talked about. We anticipated they'd stay fairly stable throughout 2024, maybe get down to the mid 6 range. So tell us what really happened.
Well, we won on that one too. There were a lot of people out there saying, Fed's going to reduce rates multiple times and mortgage rates are going to drop. And we might even see a 5 handle, in the sense of, high fives or mid fives. And I said, there's no way. In fact, you remember, Tracy, we were on a call at the beginning of the year last year, and somebody said, we're going to get to 5.5% in 2024. And I said, there is no way that is going to happen. In fact, I even bet him $1,000. By the way, he owes me $1,000.
Let's call that in. We can have a great New Year's Eve.
But what happened with mortgage rates was a lot of up and down, but really not any major significant trend one way or another. And that's kind of what we were expecting.
So the AI pulled out of our story from last year that the prediction of most people suggest that we'd be down in the 5 to 6% range, but we said that we did not think that was going to happen at all. So
Right.
yeah, we were spot on.
Right. And we're not economists. We just look at what's happening.
It said specifically, while some suggest a potential drop into the 5s, the speakers, meaning us, expressed some skepticism due to the Federal Reserve policies.
Yep.
So great for you. Best time to list. So Zillow comes out with best time to list your property for maximum sales price.
Right. And I did a deep dive on that last year for
based
the
on
first
historical
time. Yeah,
sales.
On historical and just seasonal patterns and what we see. And every year it's been that June, July, August is when we see the highest price per square foot, highest values.
Of prices sold, which means if it's June, that house probably came on the market April, May.
Exactly.
So early on in the summer season, with a closing by the end of the summer season, is when we see the highest prices. And that's exactly what happened this year again.
I mean,
you look at history where, all you have to do is look and go, yeah.
That one's not too hard. Now, the only caveat to that is 21, 22, and 20, 21, and 22. Those years, it just kept going. We never had that seasonal pullback. And we're having that seasonal pullback again this year. And
happens every year.
And it happens every year. And we'll probably, see prices flat here through February, and then we'll be off to the races again, I suspect, come spring.
So the other thing we predicted was increased sales volume, which means number of properties selling. So we predicted an increase in the number of homes sold in 2024 compared to 2023. And it says, although we didn't specify a precise number.
I'm going to call that one, we're kind of right. Home sales did increase. Well, I'll tell you what we got right. We said that we thought 2023 was going to be the low point for the number of sales, and that from there, starting in 24, home sales, the number of homes selling in Albuquerque would increase. And they did, but really moderate. I mean, we went from 8,400 homes to 8,600 homes. So
We
it was an
yeah,
increase.
it was an increase versus a decrease.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what else? What else did we predict? So increase in sales volume, prices, mortgage rates, best time to list. Pretty much those are the big ones.
Yeah. And we talked about inventory as well, meaning the number of homes on the market, and it did increase.
Right.
However, we're still below even the 2019 levels of number of homes. In fact, this week, end of the year 2024, we're back under 2,000 single family homes on the market, which it's been dropping now every week for the last 3 weeks. And again, that'll continue through February, March, probably through February. And then we'll start to see more homes build and inventory. So a lot of people are taking their homes off the market.
Yep.
All right. Oh, go ahead. What do you got?
Well, I was going to go to our featured home of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's a really cool property and really special. So we're saying, okay, all you folks that are out here listening, who do you know that this property fits? Because this property is not for everybody, right? It's a very special, unique property. It's in Corrales on an acre, and it's a very high end, beautiful 2-bedroom adobe that was crafted by the adobe maker for himself. So it has a lot of special touches in it, right? A lot of hand carved woodwork and vigas and latias and nichos, and the cabinets were handmade with copper inserts in the doors as well as the kitchen. High-end appliances. Sits right in the middle of what you would say downtown Corrales.
Yeah, it's walking distance to a lot of the restaurants.
Ex Novo,
yeah.
Indigo Crow, Hannah and Nate's, the
I
little
wouldn't say ex
shops.
novo.
Yeah, well, I would.
That's an inside joke between Tracy
Yeah.
and I, by the way. It's
very
relatively
close.
close to Indigo Crow.
I would say you could even get to Sandia Bar.
Yeah, you could
It's a
probably
ways,
it's a
but,
little
you
bit.
know.
You could get to the elementary school is
Right there.
is right there.
To me, it's like safer to walk if you're going to go to Ex Novo or Sandia Bar. So it's just the safe way to do it,
Okay.
right? Go to Indigo Crow and have a glass of wine and you can walk home. It's like a block, right?
Right.
But the beauty is the address is Corrales Road, but it's down a lane to the west of Corrales Road, like 3 lots in. So you're not really Corrales Road, even though it says Corrales Road. But here's the kicker, right? There's another building on the property that was built as an amazing artist studio. High ceilings. I think the main room there is 12-foot ceilings, and then there's 2 other rooms. It's 20, almost 2,200 square feet. Built in 2004, so the adobe I think was 1998, and then the studio was added on as a very high-end, well-built studio. And the property together is 995,000, and it's going to be available right around the first of the year to be seen. So if you know somebody who needs an amazing studio, casita, auxiliary building that could be multi-use, could be a work from home situation, could be a lot of things, look for this one, give us a call and we can tell you more about it. So it's an adobe home and this studio that's actually much bigger than the adobe home, but it's all in a sweet location.
About 4,000 square foot total.
Yeah.
Between the two, the two buildings.
So maybe you know somebody who needs that for hobbies or for live work or something.
It's got a lot of potential for a lot of different uses. I think that's really, it's not going to be for everybody because if you don't need that extra building, but there's a lot of people that do. So yeah, it's a lot of possibilities for sure.
Correct. Okay. So we are Tracy and Tego Venturi, real broker here in the Albuquerque metro area. Best way to reach us, 448-8888. And of course, we're in the 505. 448-8888. And if you want to know more about that property or any others, we'd be honored to hear from you.
Let's do the 2024 just wrap up on the year and what happened in real estate in Albuquerque in 2024. We've already talked about our predictions from last year and how we turned out. Home prices up about 4%, home sales up slightly in the Albuquerque area. So that's pretty straightforward. But some of the big things that happened was, first and foremost, and we already hit on this a little bit, was interest rate volatility. Interest rates not doing, at least mortgage interest rates not doing what we projected. Not what we projected, but it was unexciting in mortgage interest rates. I remember when the Fed finally reduced the Fed rate by 0.5%, 50 basis points. The next day, mortgage rates went up 0.5 point. So people were expecting this big drop, but didn't quite understand how the whole bond market, mortgage market is all intertwined. And just because the Fed reduces their rate doesn't mean that mortgage rates are going to drop. So anyway, it was an odd year for mortgage rates. One of the things that we would hear people say was this expression was date the rate, buy the home, or something like that, which I think is kind of silly. It's buy what you can afford based on what the current market rate is for mortgages. And if you can refi later at a better rate, then so be it. But don't count on it. That's the thing I want to get
Make
people
sure
into
you
a bad
make
financial
sure you can
situation.
afford the monthly payment that you're buying today,
Right.
knowing the possibility might exist that at a future date you could refinance it into a different rate, lower rate. And as people get pay increases and their wealth goes up, the value of the property is going up. So a lot of times I think about someone I sold a house to 10 years ago who stretched themselves to buy their first home. And it was like, oh my gosh, should I do this? Because it's like $1,000 a month and I'm only paying 800 in rent right now. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like that. And I was like, can you comfortably do this 1,000 a month? Right. That house today, they sold it. It had appreciated when they sold it about $70,000 that they hadn't even planned on, right? But that house today, it's probably a $340,000 house and they paid 165 for it about 10 years ago, but they sold it. But the person who now has it at 340 or 350 or whatever, it's what, 2,200 a
Yeah.
month or
Yeah.
something. So sometimes, like when our son bought Tego,
Oh, I
we
know.
were freaked out. He was buying an expensive
We
house.
of all of anybody, we were freaked out because it was think about, what his budget was compared to what our budget was when we built our house.
Right. And we thought he was going to be buying something 100,000 less than he picked out, right? And
Yeah.
he was buying in Arizona, so we weren't his uncle was his realtor, not us. And when he called to say I've got this house under contract, we were like, "Oh my gosh, what's the monthly payment?" He goes, "It's fine. I can cover it." And now that house is worth another $150,000. And that was the first year of COVID. He was out there with gloves and masks looking in the windows shopping for a house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what an amazing thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a stretch then, but right now it's not. His income has gone up or their income.
So that was a long way to talk about interest rates have
Sorry.
been
Yeah.
no, it was good. It's good to talk about because interest rates that can go into the other big trend for 2024, which was affordability or lack of affordability. And that continues to be a problem, continues to be a trend for our market and
Yeah.
really all over the country.
Totally.
And so honestly, there doesn't appear to be any solution in sight for affordability challenges. What we're seeing from government and different entities is just giving people more money to buy homes. Okay, that helps those people, but does that really fix the underlying affordability problem, which is a supply problem? And that still is going to be a challenge. And there doesn't seem to be any solution in the pipeline to make something change drastically other than if we get mortgage rates dropping, which do not look likely either. Maybe a little bit, but nothing substantial. So there's that. Inventory challenges. When we say inventory, we're talking about the number of homes on the market, correct?
Yep.
And around the country, there's been a lot of stories about all these flood of homes coming on the market, but it's very selective. That's one of the other terms that was very common this year was geographic market shifts. I heard that in the national conversation about housing econ because talking about what's happening in Austin or in Florida, a select few areas is very different than Albuquerque.
Right.
And people unfortunately conflate those things sometimes and
Conflate.
you
Wow.
have to
Big
be
word.
careful. Well, what I find is some of the what we call the housing doomers. These are the people that do YouTube videos and different TikToks and all this stuff talking about housing crash is just around the corner and here's my evidence because they pick out Austin.
Right.
One
Right.
city,
Right.
right? One city out of hundreds and hundreds, right? So it's just silly. So anyway, yeah, the inventory has built in some markets, but in our market, like I said, we're still 25% below 2019. So we're still in a short supply. Remember doing our show in 2019 and talking about how, wow, there's not very many homes on the market.
Right.
This is the lowest
And
we've
now we're
seen in a
still
long.
less than that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Yep.
words of the year, Tracy. I'm going to quiz you.
Oh my gosh.
Lock-in effect.
Lock-in effect. Yeah. What do you want me to tell you about it?
What is that?
Lock-in effect means that we've got a lot of homeowners right now that have low interest rates that they feel locked into. So they're going to hold on to that house and that interest rate, right? And those houses aren't going to come on the market, so to speak.
Yeah, so that's one term and it's been now around for a year and a half or so since mortgage rates went up. But lock-in effect is still a thing, and it's become very common in the housing econ world. Another term that isn't new and we've talked about for years, but it's pretty new to Albuquerque, which is build to rent or
Mm.
BTR.
So build to rent is actual like houses or townhomes being built not for sale, like a whole community of them being built for rent. So we know of several neighborhoods here that are whole neighborhoods being built with not apartments, but townhomes or single family homes or a mix thereof for rent,
Yeah, and
not for sale.
that's much more common. And last I checked, there's 600 to 800 units in the pipeline in the Albuquerque area.
We've seen them.
They're coming. They're
Gragos
coming.
Farm. There's
Yep.
one here off West Side Boulevard and Southern Rio Rancho.
I think for me, this was the thing that dominated 2024 because I was so involved in it was the commission structure or the NAR lawsuit settlement and how commissions are paid or not paid and how realtors get their fee paid. And it changed drastically in 2024.
It did, and to simplify it, because that's what I like to do.
It changed drastically on the back end. For consumers, it didn't have that much of an impact.
Well, it does because for a consumer, for us to help them show them homes, we have to have a written agreement that we're going to work together and how we as realtors get paid. And in the past, it was offered through our multiple listing service. We knew this is what the seller was offering for us to bring a buyer to their property. That has been removed. It's no longer allowed. That is just published out there what the seller will offer to us. What we know is most sellers are still offering because that's an incentive for people to buy their house, right? And most buyers don't have that extra cash to pay the realtor fee.
Right.
So the big change was the amount being offered by a seller to the buyer or by the seller's broker to a buyer broker is no longer public to the realtor community, right? It's not in the MLS.
Yeah, it used to be a policy requirement that when you list a home for sale, you would have to offer some sort of compensation to the buyer broker or the co-broker, as we call it.
In the MLS.
And there was no set amount. There's never been a set amount. At one time, it could be as little as $1, and then it changed to zero. But it was still a MLS policy that had to be there. Well, that got removed, and so now any compensation that the buyer's broker is getting paid has to be negotiated usually along with the deal or with the buyer or with the seller or with the other broker or whatever. So it's just an extra negotiation in the process.
So from the buyer's perspective, we as realtors need to have an agreement with them that says, this is how much I charge to do what I do. And if the seller will offset that or pay all of it, we will collect it that way. But the buyer has to understand that now we're getting a written agreement saying I'm going to be paid this much, and the buyer may have to pay a portion of it.
Yeah.
And we're agreeing to work together with a contract.
I think the simplest explanation is a decoupling from what the seller and the listing broker, what they agree to, for fees, and what the buyer and the buyer broker agree for fees. But you can also negotiate that buyer broker fee with the seller and see if the seller's willing to help with that as well.
Yep.
Okay, I know that's what we just said, but I wanted to give the 2-sentence answer. All right, big changes in housing that I saw was we had a presidential election this year, and for the first time, really, there was a lot of conversation about housing, realizing that we do have a housing, air quote, crisis in the country in the sense that affordability is a challenge. That's been a big conversation. There just isn't first time home type homes available the way they used to be. The lower priced homes are just very limited and the affordability is a challenge. So that came up as a political issue and got talked about a lot. There was a lot of potential solutions thrown around
Yeah.
with no simple answers. And that's the problem. There are no simple answers. Now, I got to go here. The big corporations buying all the homes, because I got into multiple debates on that one in 2024. And as far as I can tell, there were absolutely zero homes sold in Albuquerque in 2024 that were purchased by some big hedge fund or Blackstone or some of these other companies. And by the way, it's not BlackRock, it's Blackstone that buys single family homes and rents them, but they're not even in our market. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's not a thing that didn't happen. And I just like to emphasize that for all the haters out there that gave me so much grief that, oh, if we just ban that, that'll fix housing. It's like, yeah, no,
Well,
it's more complicated than that.
the other one, Tego, you think about it, is all the Californians are buying up our
Oh
houses
yeah,
still.
that one. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. Still not a thing, right?
No, I mean, yes, there's people moving from California. There's people moving from everywhere. Texas is actually one of the feeder markets, more so. Phoenix is definitely one of the feeder markets for Albuquerque
There's
as well.
even
But
like the New York City, New Jersey area comes up when you look at
Yeah.
where people are coming from.
our population growth has been pretty flat, and there's no expectation of some huge boom in population, just kind of steady, slow growth in population in
Yeah.
Albuquerque. The last thing I want to talk about, Tracy, before we wrap for 2024 is AI in real estate. 2024 was a big year for artificial intelligence,
Uh-huh.
and it's made its way into just about everything now. And it was interesting. Somebody asked me the other day, how many people are using AI in their real estate business these days? And I said, well, 100%, because it's everywhere in everything. And you don't even realize you're using it so many times, right? And it depends on how you define AI. Does AI mean logging into ChatGPT and having it write some marketing content for you? Or is it something that's integrated into some of the other apps you use, like our floor plan programs?
Right.
It's already
Things
it's
where you
there.
might not even realize it's using AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
kind of in there and everything. And just a simple example would be in our MLS, for example, here in Albuquerque, every single image that gets uploaded gets scanned and it gets tagged and it says, is it a kitchen? Is it a living room? Is it a bathroom? Is it a backyard? Is it a front yard? So it's being used in everything all the time, even if you don't know it. And I don't think there was all that buzz about, oh, AI and chat's going to put real estate agents out of business, that whole thing that comes around every once in a while. And it's made us more efficient, no doubt about that. But there's still just, you need that personal touch.
Yeah. Totally do. But it's an awesome thing. And I know there's a lot of people very worried about AI, but it's here. And it's the way it is.
Well, we don't have
Do we have
2
time
hours to
for
go down
one more home of the week?
Of course.
So we have this property that's not listed by us, but we've been noticing it and thought, it just had a good price reduction. It's probably a good one to tell
So this
people
is our
about.
deal of the week.
Our deal of the week is 721 Quincy Northeast 87110. Just price reduced to $429. It's almost 2,200 square feet on a 0.2 of an acre, so 1/5 of an acre. It's a 4-bedroom. It looks really cool, very updated with granite and really nice finishes in and out, very walkable neighborhood. Kitchen's got granite and Bordeaux pattern, copper sink, and wood cabinets with brass handles, just lots of thoughtful touches. So if you're looking for something that's kind of interesting, unique.
Quincy, northeast or southeast?
Northeast.
Northeast. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Northeast.
So it's north of Central, obviously.
Yep.
And okay. Got
Anyway,
it. Yeah.
the total estimated monthly on that with 20% down is $2,169 a month.
Well, there you go.
So,
that's principal and interest.
Principal and interest.
Got it.
Yep.
Great.
Anyway, it's always great to be here, Tego. This is our last show of the year.
Yeah.
What'd you say, number 517?
517.
Over 10 years of doing these together and being on the radio and on all the other sites out there. So if people want to follow, what are all the things they should do?
Well, if you're on YouTube, subscribe, ring the bell, as they say. And if you're on Facebook or somewhere else, just give us a like. Or if you're listening on one of the streaming podcasts, give us a like. So we appreciate
Awesome.
you.
Have
And
a
if you're
great new
listening on
year.
Kiva, give Eddie a thank you for what he does.
Absolutely.
KIVA 1600 AM. Thanks.